Welcome everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are trying something new today. I have a coffee siphon here and we are going to be trying this special coffee that was given to me by my good friend Mark. It's a special coffee that he got when he was down in El Salvador. So it's a coffee directly sourced from El Salvador and directly sourced from the locals, so he bought it at the market there. So it's really cool just to have this like specialty coffee that was gifted to me. And I'm going to try it with you guys, and I'm going to try it on the siphon. The coffee siphon is a specialty brewing that gets it to a really hot temperature and then also uses vacuum pressure to extract the coffee rather than relying on gravity itself to pull the water through. So I've really been meaning to brew coffee for you guys this way for a while now. I really want to explore all the different brewing methods that we have available to us, and then I just want to really branch out and explore more brewing methods that are available just so I can learn more about different brew methods and how they get different flavors out of that same cup of coffee, but with that different brew method. And then another important part is there's a lot of rich culture behind different brewing methods. And so just by learning to brew a certain way, we can introduce ourselves to a different culture that we might not have been introduced ourselves to before. And so that is something that intrigues me about some of the brewing methods I'm going to be getting into, is just where these different brewing methods come from, the culture that inspires them, and then just really learn how they drink their coffee so I can experience the way that they grow up and experience it in their home country. So that's something that's going to be really cool about this experience. So with this brewing method, it's very scientific. We've got the bowl down below has water that's essentially boiling temperature, and then we've got it on a heat lamp, and then the heat lamp is going to further heat up the water. And so once the water gets to a certain temperature, we're going to start seeing some boiling coming off the chain down below. Excuse me, guys. And then once the boiling starts coming off the chain, we're going to seal the bottom chamber. Once we seal the bottom chamber, it's going to create a pressure change. The pressure is starting to become a positive pressure. And so what that's going to do is it's going to start forcing the water to the top chamber, and that is going to give us that vacuum that we need to have a proper brew. Alright, so we're starting to get some bubbles down at the bottom. It's not entirely consistent, so we're going to wait a little bit. Actually, you know what? It's actually getting a little bit more consistent, so we are actually going to seal it. So now that the chamber is sealed, we are going to start generating a positive pressure in the lower chamber. And the positive pressure is what forces the water up top. And then by the time all the water has reached the surface or the upper chamber, it's going to be around 235 degrees. So the water is a little bit hotter than boiling temperature, so it's a very, very hot cup of coffee. But once you add the grinds, it only brews for 90 seconds. So we have a 90-second brew time once the grinds hit the water. But because of the increased temperature, we are getting more vibration in the molecules of the water, and then that vibrates the grounds of the coffee, and that's going to give us a more rapid extraction. And then on top of the more rapid extraction, we're going to have that vacuum pressure that's going to suck all that water out. So with this coffee, it actually doesn't have tasting notes to it. But when Mark brought it over for me, we did a tasting of it on the Syphon as well. And what I noticed is we got like some really smooth, like graham cracker bitter notes with some chocolate, and like very very subtle like tangerine notes. So it was very very nice. Something that I did notice after we brewed was I did grind the coffee for a little bit more of a coarser setting than I should have. We still got the nice bulbous dome that you're looking for when you do a Syphon brew, but when I noticed that I did the grind wrong, I was wondering how much that affected the flavor. And so this time I made sure I did the grind right, weighed it out properly, and now we are going to taste the Syphon brewed properly, just to see how much that flavor differentiates from a incorrect brew to a proper brew. And so we are about to find that out. And that's after we find that out, it's really important to learn all this because we're going to see how the flavors change, and that flavor change is going to be important to the cup that we're drinking and making sure that it tastes good. So now that the water is pretty much all the way to the top, we've got a small pool of water down the bottom. We're going to turn the heat down, and then we're going to add our grinds. So we're going to stir vigorously. And then we're going to wait 45 seconds. And then 45 seconds, we're going to stir vigorously again. And then after 45 seconds, we're going to stir vigorously again and turn off the heat. And so right now we have a really hot brew process going on up top, and then we've got our heat lamp down below. Just keep maintaining that pressure. And so this brew process is so hot that you actually have to wait a while before you can actually even drink it. So. This is one of my favorite brew processes to do in like a public setting, just because of just how fascinating it is. People see it and they're just like, ooh, what's that? And I just like that ooh factor that it brings. It just gets people really excited. And then it makes for a really, really good cup of coffee. It makes for a really, really strong cup of coffee too. So if you even brew like a blonde roast on this, it's going to bring out a lot of those flavors. It's going to be really, really intense, even for like a light roast coffee. And those bitter dark roast coffees are going to be much more intense. It's going to be like drinking almost like an espresso, but slightly watered down. And so it's going to have that intenseness to it. So now we're going to pull the siphon off the heat. Now that we've pulled the siphon off the heat, that positive pressure that is in the lower chamber is now coming back down to the original chamber, or the original pressure that it was before. And because it's at a positive pressure than what it was before, we have a vacuum down below that is pulling all that water through. And because it's pulling the water through, we're actually getting more of those oils than you would normally get in a brew method that wouldn't normally use like a cloth or paper filter. And so because of that, we're really pulling a lot of that through the filter and getting that full flavor. And so when you brew a siphon, you want a mound in the center of your the top chamber of your siphon. And when you get that mound that looks like there's a golf ball underneath the grinds, that means it's a tell that shows that the brew process has been done properly. And so, because we have that bulb in there, we know that our coffee is good and brewed right. And so, making sure that you brew it right is important to making sure that we're getting the right flavors that we're supposed to be getting with that particular coffee. And if we don't brew the coffee right, then we're just doing a disservice to the people who grew this coffee, because a lot of work goes into a single bag. And if we improperly brew it, and we decide that we don't like that coffee because we don't like the flavor notes, but the only reason why you don't like it is because you didn't properly brew the coffee, then you're essentially just kind of throwing away the hard work of a coffee grower. And so making sure that we grow or brew our coffee right is very important to ourselves and to the people who put the hard work into making these bags get to our table. And then also another thing you want to do when you're buying your coffee too is just making sure that you're getting the notes that you're looking for, because everyone likes different notes in their coffee, and so finding those flavors that tie to you that you're looking for in your cup of coffee is very important to making sure that you can enjoy your cup of coffee. That way you're not buying a roast that you don't like and end up having to throw away a bag just because it's not your flavor. I mean, it definitely is important to explore and try new coffees just because this is part of the coffee journey. But if we're going to throw away an entire bag just because it's too roasty or too bold or not bold enough, it's just a disservice to the growers. So when just from holding it in front of me like this and the steam wafting in front of my face, I'm getting like an intense nutty, like a hazelnut or peanutty scent from it. It smells really, really good. I'm scared to try it just because the Syphon, like I said, it gets to 235 degrees, so it gets very, very hot. Oh wow. Yeah, so what's different now, because when I ground it before, I had ground it too coarse, so we weren't getting as much surface area, so it wasn't as flavorful. Like, it to me when I tasted it, I felt like it tasted a little light for a Syphon coffee. This I'm getting like that really strong, like bright. It's almost like a tart lime flavor, like almost like a lime rind, like the rind of a lime. And then we're getting some strong nutty notes, like some peanut, hazelnut flavor. It's very, very bright, really, really smooth. The lemon or the lime tartness in the very beginning is a little overwhelming, and then you get that peanut flavor, and then that peanut / hazelnut flavor kind of washes away. And then as that washes away, we're left with that tartness from the lime notes. So I'd say this has definitely got intense notes of lime with like nutty peanut hazelnut flavor, and then really brings back that tartness from that lime as well. Very, very intense cup of coffee. Really, really good. Got lots of flavor notes to it. What I like is that the peanut hazelnut flavor that we're getting in this coffee. If we try it on a French press or a pour over, we might get a little bit more of the pour over. We might get a little bit more of that lime flavor, and then the French press, we're going to get a little bit more of those nutty notes. So I look forward to trying this coffee in the normal trio method that I do on my normal channel, and then I'll probably do a little bit of research on El Salvador and what they do to grow their coffee and how they share with their community and stuff like that. So thank you guys for joining me on the Syphon brew. This is just the first experimental video of this series, so I apologize if the audio is bad or anything like that. Like I said, it's just experimental. If this does good, then I will make sure that I get all the proper things working properly. And if the audio is really that bad, then I will have to fix it. Like I said, it's experimental, so I'm seeing how well this does. And then we will go from there. So thank you guys for joining me on the Syphon and the El Salvador coffee that I got from Mark. It tastes really, really good. Very, very bright and tart with those nutty notes. Really good. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you next time.